It's time to move on from Dennis Grosel. On today's show, I'm going to lay out the case why it's not the time to keep him as starting quarterback, and I will give you who I think Boston College should go with for the remaining games of the season. All of that and more on today's Locked On Boston College.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com and tell them Locked On sent you. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here. Thank you all for listening. If you have just started listening to our show, this is a daily BC podcast that we do 5 days a week. On today's show, we're going to talk about the quarterback position. It's always the hot button topic. We're going to talk about Dennis Grosel and his struggles, and we're going to get into what I think Jeff Hafley should do, and maybe give you a little bit of what I think will actually happen this week. So, we talked a little bit on yesterday's show about Dennis Grosel's struggle. He's become a turnover machine. He has 6 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. He has 4 fumbles in the last 3 games. It's been a rough going, and this is not to beat up on Grossell. As we said earlier this season, the coaching staff and the players hold Grossell up to a very high standard. They see him as a leader. He's a locker room presence. The players all respect him. So I don't want this segment to become a bash him, because he's only, he's a college kid. It's not fair for me to just sit here and rip him to shreds. However, you're seeing what you're seeing on the field, right? And there's certainly pieces that aren't out of his control, right? Like sometimes when he gets hit, it's because there's issues with the offensive line. And that certainly is a problem in itself and something they're going to need to address. But there's bigger issues with Grossell that I don't think can be fixed. And those, fans have been saying it to me over and over again, and I totally agree with them now. And I've seen it for the last couple of weeks, is his inability to hit the long ball is a major issue with this offense. And here is why. There's 2 big things. First of all, Frank Cignetti's offenses really, they have a special emphasis on taking the top off of a defense. What does that mean? It means that you need to make sure for this offense to work, that defenses take it into account your ability to throw the long ball. He did it with Eli Manning. He did it with Aaron Rodgers. He did it with Phil Dracovic. He can't do it with with Dennis Grosel. You've seen it over and over again. All those times where Zay Flowers is flying down the sideline and there's no one near him, and Grosel misses him by 5 yards. Misses him by 3 yards. He throws it out of bounds. It's a problem. And that problem, what it leads to is now defenders, they don't need to respect the long game. They don't need to respect the long ball. They can really kind of just play up a little bit, right? So BC's offense under Dracovic, under Grossell, has a key tenet to it, and that's the play action, right? It sets up the long pass, it sets up the run, it sets up the short and intermediate things. Well, you take the long ball out, right? Now that defenses don't need to send guys out to make sure that Zay's, double bracketed. They don't need to do that anymore. What can they do? So Grossell goes back to pass. He goes to play action. Now all of a sudden, you see play action, you cut in. You move in because he can't throw it further than 10, 12 yards down the field accurately. You don't need to really worry about it. You just send the single coverage cornerback out there. Not worry about anything else. You can send the safeties in to help on the inside stuff. You can cheat all over the place to make a defense look good. I saw Louisville writers glowing about the Cardinals defense, and hey, you do what you want, but I'm telling you, their defensive job was not that hard when half of the field is taken away and, major parts of this game plan are gone. It's not like they're great now. They got an easy assignment. And I don't know if Grossell can fix this. Hafley in his press conference on Sunday said, he needs to see the film. He needs to see what they need to do to make points. And I just don't think I can see Grossell changing. It's not like all of a sudden, if he goes out to Fish Field and throws a bunch, is he going to be able to hit the long ball more to Zay Flowers? I don't think so. I think he's kind of run his course, and I think it's time for a change. And this, again, I'm not here to beat up on Grossell. I just see what I see. And you guys have seen it too. A kid that has been good as a backup. He's had his moments. He deserved the time that he had to start. I mean, some people are saying he shouldn't have started at all. I disagree with you. I think he earned the right to start when Djokovic went down. However, I think that time is done. I think I'm worried that if he's out there and he's not hitting receivers anymore, you're going to see guys like Zay Flowers or CJ Lewis or Jalen Gill just start to get frustrated because they're doing what they need to do and the ball's just not getting to them. And so that's why I think a change needs to happen. And I'm not sure if that's going to happen. In a moment, I'll tell you what I think could happen with Boston College's quarterback situation, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. All right, college fantasy football fanatics, have you heard about PrizePicks? PrizePicks is a daily fantasy made easy. I love this. I know you will too. They are the leader in college sports daily fantasy. They offer more college football props than anyone in the world and offer all the star players of the Power 5 as well as mid-major players you may not have even heard of. And they offer you anything you can think of, from yardage to touchdown, even to interceptions thrown. You just pick 2 to 5 players, the over-under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times in any entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. PrizePicks allows mixed sports entry, so you could pick someone like Patrick Mahomes and LeBron James, and boom, you have a selection right there. It's easy to use. You just go to the App Store or Google Play, make your selection in 60 seconds or less, and boom, you're ready to roll. Don't hesitate. Check out PrizePicks.com and use Locked On, and they're going to match any deposit made up to $100. Or you just go to the App Store and download the app today. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Are you in the process of doing work on your car? Why spend 30, 50, 70, or even 100% more when you could go to rockauto.com right now and save? RockAuto.com is a family business. They've been serving auto parts customers for over 20 years, and they have everything. All you need to know is your make and model. You go to their easy-to-use directory, and boom, they'll show you what they have, whether it's brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. Why go to the store when you could hear pointless and even sometimes intimidating questions when you can head behind your computer, make it easy for you at rockauto.com. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck, and write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here. We're talking quarterback situation as Boston College is heading into their Syracuse week. And there's a lot of questions about where Jeff Hafley is going to go with the quarterback situation. Now, on the first segment, we talked about Dennis Grosel's struggles, some of the schematic pieces that are making it harder for him to be successful. And I said it's time for a change. Now, what will Jeff Hafley do now that he has, it's kind of in his court to make a decision? Boston College has lost 3 games in a row. They're averaging only 11 points a game. And so you have to wait, because on Monday, the depth chart came out and it still says Grossell on there, but I wouldn't read anything into that. The initial gut reaction when you see that is, oh no, Grossell is still starting. Remember, in 2020, when Djokovic was named starting quarterback, we didn't find out that Djokovic was starting over Grossell until about 15 minutes before the Duke game started. So give it some time. I think what Hafley is going to do, here's what he's going to do this week. He's got a decision to make, and he said it so much during his press conference. He needs to figure out what he can do to make sure that his team scores points. It could be going with Dennis Grosel. It could be going with one of the other options. So there are 3 options for Boston College if they decide to move on from Dennis Grosel. First of all is Dalen Minard. He's from Chaminade High School in Florida. He played 1 snap, I believe, against NC State, and that was the time where they were already out of the game. He handed the ball off to Peter Stair in the end zone and got sacked, hit for a safety. He didn't get hit. Stair got hit for a safety. That was it. That's all we've seen of Dalen Minard. My gut with Minard is he's kind of like Grossell. Like, you know what you're going to get. It's like he's from a very good high school. There's a lot of talk about him being a winner, and he could be the fit, but I'm not sure his upside is anything drastically different than what you have with Grossell. So that's one person. The next one is Matt Rueve. It's Rueve, but it's pronounced Reeve. And he is from St. Xavier High School in Ohio. He's a redshirt freshman, so he's from the same high school as Luke Kuechly, Stephen Daniels, Sean Duggan. There's Ben Glines. There's a whole list of former St. Xavier High School players to come here. Now, to give you kind of a context of where he came from, he signed to Boston College shortly after Jeff Hafley took over. He didn't have many offers. I think he had like 2 or 3 group of 5, smaller school offers, and that was it. So that kind of tells you, like, he's not like a blue chipper. He's a developmental guy. He's a guy that's going to take a little time to see what you have, and he may be it. He's 6'4", and he, Hafley said he's able to move. He's a mobile quarterback, but he's not like I don't think of him as a polished quarterback. So he may not be the best option either. Now, if you are looking for a quarterback, one who could take the top off the defense, one that has a upside that I've heard the word stud used for him. I've heard comparisons to Phil Dracovic. Really exciting quarterback is Emmett Morehead. Emmett Morehead is a California kid who played high school in Virginia. Now, he missed all of the 2020 season due to COVID, and not him having it, but I believe the high schools down there canceled high school football because of COVID, and then signed with Boston College in January and enrolled early. Now, he is 6'6", and the word I used with his arm, and I think it was John Garcia who used it, was that he is a bazooka for an arm. This guy has a humongous arm. Now, I'm not sure about accuracy. I've heard lots and lots of good things from sources I know within the program about how he can play. So he's another option. He's a freshman. Again, he's not a blue chipper, but if he's what you think your offense can do, and like maybe he's going to be your backup next year under Dracovic, maybe he's your future starter, is it the worst thing to use him right now? I don't think so, because what Morehead does, as I just said, he has a big arm, is immediately he's going to open up the offense a little bit more, because if he can at least get closer to Zay down the field, then immediately all that underneath stuff will open up again. You'll get your offense flowing again. And, he may make mistakes if he's the one chosen, but you're going to get offense with him. I think you would get offense with him. So my choice of who I want. And you remember I said earlier that last week, I said Minard. I'm going to walk that back. I talked to some people. I've watched some film. I've been able to kind of wrap my head around this, because remember, I do admit I was wrong. I said I wanted to give Grossell a little bit more time to see how he did against a poor defense. We saw what happened. I think it's time to move on. My choice is Emmett Morehead right now. I think he's a good fit. I think he could win some games for Boston College. Will Jeff Hafley go for him? What you're going to see this week, you're not going to hear anything, first of all. I'm going to put that all out there right now, is that if you're expecting to hear, at the press conference, he's going to be evasive, and that's okay. That's his job. He's got to, he's not going to have an answer. But I honestly don't believe he will have an answer on the Tuesday press conference or the Wednesday press conference, because what I think Hafley is going to do is he's watched the film. I'm sure he's able to see the things that Grossell could control, whether it's a missed pass or a bad read or just just struggles with his decision making. He's going to put those in one bucket. He's going to put like things with the offense, whether it was like the blown block by Tyler Vrabel or, a wide receiver drop, in another bucket. And then he's going to look at all the things that Grossell probably had struggled with. See if he can fix that on the field. And then let whoever he chooses to be his backup give him the opportunity to do the same thing. And then he's going to assess who gives them the best opportunity to win on Saturday. Whether that is Grossell or Reweave, or Grossell or Minard, or Grossell or Morehead, he's going to do his due diligence, and we'll get that answer on Saturday. I mean, if he changes, I think you'll find out later. I think we're going to have to hold on. And I know it's going to be a lot of gnashing teeth and whatnot, but you'll get a fuller picture of what the quarterback situation will be later in the week. And as I said, I think it might be Morehead. I think that's my choice right now on who I think Boston College will go with, and we'll find more out about whether he's the answer in a little while. Now, in a moment, I'm going to have Mitch Wolfe back on, and we're going to change it up. We're going to talk about some of the scores from around the league on Saturday. We'll look at our friend Steve Addazio over at Colorado State, Clemson struggles, and even more in just a moment. But please, let's talk a little bit about SweatBlock wipes. For a few weeks now, we've been talking about SweatBlock, those wipes that stop sweat for 7 days. And it seems people have been listening. We have friends of Locked On who have tried SweatBlock and love it. We had a high school teacher who checked it out. We have a story here about one. He pitted out by fourth period. He'd hear the snickers and whispers from his students, so he started bringing a second shirt to change into between classes. Then he heard about SweatBlock on our program. He tried it and is hooked. No more snickers, no more second shirt. Now, why is SweatBlock so great? It stops excessive sweat for up to 7 days. It's doctor created, doctor recommended. There's a dry shirt guarantee. So even if you're doubting this, they have it. If you want to try it out, they guarantee they're going to keep you dry or you're going to get your money back. It's not just for your armpits, though. It's for your chest, back, feet, hands. Use it anywhere, and I mean anywhere, that sweats. If you or someone you care about is dealing with excessive sweat, you have to check out SweatBlock. Get it today for 20% off at sweatblock.com with the promo code LOCKEDON or at Amazon and CVS. This is Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. We're going to wrap up our episode with Mitch Wolfe today to talk about some of the other games from around the country. There were some interesting ones, and of course, we talk about some of our favorite teams, all in a sarcastic manner. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the game of the weekend started before Saturday even happened, as I opened up my my Twitter on Saturday morning. I'm not even kidding you. I had 12 notifications, all direct messages with the exact same link on it. And it was all showing the end of the Colorado State-Utah State game. And Mitch, I will let you describe that.
Right. So I was one of those notifications for what it's worth. And basically what happened is Colorado State is down 24-26 with just a few seconds left in the game. They complete a pass to get a first down. I think 11 seconds are left. So it's 1st and 10 and they're in field goal range. And obviously the clock stops in 1st and 10. See, Colorado State has the ball within field goal range. They could snap the ball, spike it, give their kicker about 10 seconds to kick the field goal. Of course, Colorado State has no timeouts because what is Steve Addazio if not a terrible timeout manager? However, instead of spiking the ball, they run on their, quote, fast field goal team to kick a field goal immediately. The offense remains on the field. They seem very confused. The offense starts running off the field as the clock starts to wind. Colorado State rushes their field goal and eventually they miss. And I think so they lose the game with 1 second left on a missed field goal because Steve Addazio forgot that he could spike the ball.
And, you look at that and you go, wow, who was the unbelievable poor special teams coordinator for Colorado State? Mitch, who's the special teams coordinator for the Rams?
I honestly don't know. I mean, is it Ricky Brown still?
No, it's Steve Addazio.
oh, that's great. That's the thing though, is because a guy like Steve Addazio, who's like a consummate professional, he's going to take accountability the right way, because that's not really the player's fault, more on the coaches, and that's a mistake that he made. And I assume that he, took full responsibility for that mishap.
Oh no, he's screaming at all his players on the side.
Oh yeah, that's right. Of course.
And then had a long diatribe at his press conference. That was, if you're a Boston College fan, you know exactly what it sounds like, where he kind of skirts taking responsibility and then just blames everything else. Mm-hmm. But Steve Addazio fired his special teams coordinator at the end of last year and named himself. He's head coach / special teams coordinator.
Oh boy, that's just delightful. So I'm looking at the stats now. It looks like David Bailey had a great game, so that's good for him. But man, I just do not foresee Steve Addazio being long for that job because I'm surprised he made it out of last year after all the issues he had with his team regarding masks and social justice protests. I was shocked he made it out of that. And, they've lost a bunch of close games now this season, mostly because of his inadequacies. So I don't think he's long for that job. So
moving on to other teams that are really struggling. UMass. Let's talk about UMass for a moment. I'm not going to put the sound clip on this one because I don't think UConn played, or if they did.
They lost on Friday night as well to Middle Tennessee, 44-13.
Oh man, I didn't know that one. All right, well, UMass, they were a 35.5 point underdog, I believe, to Florida State, which I had said with Eric Hofstas on Friday's episode was a slam dunk for taking UMass. And boy, did I again, like AJ, if I put a jar with a quarter every time I was completely bleeping wrong on something, I'd be a rich man right now.
Mm-hmm. You just got to fade yourself every time.
I should.
Just say something and then just bet the other way.
This is why I'm not a gambler. But they lose 59-3 and get roped off of the field. Talk about this game a little, Mitch.
So I'm looking at the drive chart, and so UMass scored on their opening drive and got the field goal So Florida State just rattled off 59 unanswered on the Minutemen. And also their drive, this can't be right because it says the drive was 4 plays and -2 yards. So I don't know how this, I guess it doesn't look like they had a very long return or anything. So that must be an error. But yeah, I mean, well, man, this is just bad. This drive chart is terrible. I mean, so Florida State going into the half, Florida State scored a touchdown. The next drive, UMass throws a pick 6, and it's 38-3 at the half. So,
so here you go. It was -2 yards because here's what happened. Ready?
Okay.
UMass kicks off to FSU, who fumbles the opening kickoff.
Okay. Well,
then they rush for 3 yards. A penalty on UMass that sends them 5 yards backwards. Incomplete. 45-yard field goal.
Got it. Okay. That, they started off hot. I'll give them that. But the Minutemen were in it for a minute, quite literally. And then it all went downhill from there.
And then a game that I guess makes you feel good that they're having a tough year. But on the other hand, you see the injury to Dracovic and go, God damn it. They would have beaten them if Dracovic was around. Clemson is a complete disaster. They bench DJ Uiagalelei finally and bring in a guy, Tyson something.
Pomachan.
Oh man. Okay. And still get pummeled by Kenny Pickett and Pitt 27-17.
Yeah. I mean, Kenny Two Gloves is lighting it up for the Panthers. So he's really fun to watch this year. And yeah, this game was on the same time as BC, so didn't get a chance to watch it as closely as I wanted to, but I think I clicked over one point and that's when they had the interception on the shovel pass, which I think got DJ Uiagalelei benched. But yeah, I mean, it's rough for Clemson. I really just want Dabo to go to LSU because I'm just tired of dealing with him. And that's all I'll say about that. Cause last time I said too much about Clemson, I got yelled at. So,
and one of the things that came out of the Louisville game I saw was every Louisville writer. And again, I'm not saying that the Cardinals did not have a complete game. They absolutely did, but touting the return of their defense. And I talked to my friend Matt, who was on the show last week, and I'm like, guys, you had a great game, but just chill for a second because BC's offense is a complete dumpster fire right now. Mm-hmm. And we got to see exactly what I meant when I said the same thing to NC State last week. And they were like, yeah, shut up, AJ. We beat you. I'm like, okay, fine. And now they got beat by a terrible Miami team. Mm-hmm. They got 31 points.
Yeah. Tough game on the road there for them. I was watching a bit of that late at night, and that was a good game, but NC State just ultimately couldn't pull it out. And yeah, I think Louisville, you gotta take your wins when you get them. But yeah, I wouldn't be touting this defensive performance too highly. Dennis Grosel can't really complete passes beyond 10 or maybe 15 yards. But another ACC game that might have some interesting implications in the coming hours is Syracuse with a comeback victory against Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I mean, that was incredible. And I've been tough on certain teams like Miami. I've been tough on. I think Justin Fuente, and I'm not a big fan of him, but I have been utterly impressed with, and I want to give a lot of credit to Dino Babers in that team because, you talk about what Hafley was able to do for that piece when BC lost Dracovic and reforming that offense into a power rushing team. I think that Dino Babers has done the exact same thing, moving on from that really quick tempo to this punishing power runner and Sean Tucker, and really creating a good defense for what seems like the first time I can remember with Syracuse. They're a very good team, and I'm giving them all the credit because I think it's going to be a hell of a fight for BC to even get into this game on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. And the thing, I mean, so yeah, Syracuse has had a ton of really close games. They're 4-4, right? Or 4-4 now. Yeah. So they could be performing even a lot better if they had just kind of had some things break their way. They lost to Rutgers in a kind of a weird sloppy game. They lost by a field goal to Florida State, lost by a field goal in overtime to Wake. They lost by a field goal to Clemson. And in that game, Dino Babers still made some pretty questionable, if not dumb, coaching decisions. So, he's not immune to himself, but I mean, yeah, I think Syracuse is out. I think they already hit their over for their team wins with 4 this season. And they've got a little tough road to hoe to end the season. They got BC obviously next week. Then they got 2 road games at Louisville and at NC State. And then they finish the season home against Pitt. So, there's probably at least 1 or 2 wins left, but it's definitely not going to be easy for the Orange.
And then let's jump out of the ACC one more time to the other game I watched before the BC game. And forced my dad to change it because I was like, I got to watch the BC game. And that was Penn State and Illinois. And I feel like I got dumber watching that game because first of all, the new overtime rules are awful. They're just, I hate this 2-point conversion thing that they're doing. And second of all, watching two teams that are completely out of sync on offense try to do that over and over and over again was one of the most painful things I've ever watched. Mitch, what was your take on that game?
So the first thing I'll say is that I'm a noted Penn State hater. So this was a lovely game for me. And, this game was really the epitome of Big Ten football. Cause there were plays where Illinois was having, I think they had like 5 tight ends on the field, or they had 7 offensive linemen on the field, and they would just run the ball right up the middle. But man, this was the game where this kind of encapsulates the beauty and the folly, the agony and the ecstasy of college football. And that they're just games that are just stupid, but they're just so fun to watch because of how idiotic they are. Like, I think both teams tried the kind of Philly's special reverse pass to the quarterback, and they didn't complete either one, which was hilarious. And yeah, I'm okay with the 2-point conversion thing, but I think you got to give them more than 2 overtimes, like of actually making a drive at it. I think it used to be 4 or something like that. But yeah, this was just so dumb, but I had a ton of fun watching it.
Yeah, it was one of those like atrocious games that was kind of entertaining to watch. As you were saying, like watching them try to get the 2-point conversion, and they're trying all these trickeration plays, and none of them are working. It was beautiful, and watching, and we didn't even talk about the penalty flags against Illinois at one point too, that were just absolutely atrocious. Like they were getting touchdown after touchdown called back on holding calls, and just watching Brett Bielema's head like literally want to explode was amazing. It was an amazing game to watch. And this was supposed to be one of the worst weekends of football for college football fans. You looked at the slate, it was just bad games all over the place. This weekend, I think there's going to be a lot more.
That's how it goes all the time. Like anytime you look at a slate, you're like, man, there aren't really any good games this week. That's when chaos strikes. And some of the better teams like Ohio State, really took care of business. But, Oklahoma went down to the wire with Kansas. Cincinnati struggled with Navy. Bama kind of had their hands full with Tennessee, but there's definitely some fun chaos in this week of college football, and this week we've got some big games coming up too. So another great season in the NCAA.
All right, Mitch, where can people find you?
You can find me at Mitchell T. Wolfe, WOLFE on Twitter. Make sure you're following me there, as I will be at the Syracuse game on Saturday, live tweeting what's going on in the game. And I think after the game, we're going to try a Twitter Spaces thing, if you're familiar with that, where I'll kind of just be talking probably from the BC Bulletin account, just kind of going over what happened in the game. We'll probably have AG on. We can kind of have a little bit of a live podcast with our immediate reaction to the game. So that'll be a fun little thing we're going to try out.
All right. Yeah, I can't wait to do that. Mitch, thank you so much for being on. And you can follow Boston College here at Locked On BC on Twitter. Subscribe and like us wherever you get your podcasts, and follow us on YouTube. I'm AJ Black. I'm the editor and publisher of BCBulletin.com. Check out all my work there. Make sure you subscribe and like us on there as well. Thank you all, and we'll see you all again soon. Take care.